Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm here to give you guys my Walking Dead Season 9, Episode 1, the season premiere review. And this episode is called A New Beginning. Yep, A New Beginning. And it came out on October 7th, 2018. Um, I wanted to have been reviewing this show weekly, but it just because of my crazy schedule, it just didn't really work out that way. So pretty much, I'm just gonna binge watch it. When the show does come back, though, in February, I'll try to structure the my reviews that way. They won't exactly be weekly, but you know, um, they pretty much will. I'll try to um, make it at least as weekly as I can. But yeah, pretty much, I just had a busy semester with school and other things like that, and obviously, I was finishing Fear the Walking Dead. Um, so I didn't have as much. I didn't. I just couldn't really watch the show weekly. I didn't even really finish Fear the Walking Dead until um, a couple weeks. I think it was last week. So yeah, I'm here to give you the video now. How this is gonna work is just because of my crazy schedule. Um, where it's getting approaching finals week and things like that. I am gonna try to finish reviewing this show um by the end of the year at least, because I want to start something new next year and not have to really finish anything. Um, what I will do is I'll review three today, two tomorrow, and then three Tuesday. Because Monday I have some other plans to do some other videos. So that's kind of the plan. But before I actually start reviewing the episode itself, I want to kind of mention how um, these reviews are going to be structured because it's going to be different than the past reviews. How these will be structured is I'm going to edit these videos. I'm going to do like the introduction first, then watch the episode and review the episode. And this season, what I'm going to do is I'm going to watch Talking Dead this season. I watched it. I think it's season 5, and I didn't really like it that much. But I am gonna give it another watch because I heard a new person has taken over um, the show. So I figured why not give it another chance. Um, because I didn't really like the person that ran it before because he does late night and he's more of a comedy guy, and Walking Dead's supposed to be kind of like a serious show. So that's that. Um, but this video is going to be a little bit different because I'm actually going to do a preview of what I think that of this season. Just kind of talk about um, what I think of the season, give you guys some background about what into going into this season and stuff like that. I wanted to have done this as its own video, but because I never got around to it, I'm just going to make it part of this video because if I made it its own video now, it really wouldn't make any sense. So there's that. Um, so that's pretty much how these videos will be structured. So now that I've kind of went through that, let's talk about, let's preview this season. All right, so let's talk about this season of Walking Dead. And if you were to ask me, I think this is probably one of the most interesting seasons of The Walking Dead before the shows even happen, just because of all the news reports that had come out about the show and stuff. Um, and I do hope that this season is a better season than the past three have been. 6 wasn't very good. 7 wasn't much better. Um, and then 8 was fine, but obviously 8 kind of was a very disappointing season as well. So I do hope that this season will be a better season, and I think there is chances that it could be because um, of all the um, reports that have come out. Um, I did because I'm just kind of taking this right from Wikipedia. Scott M. Gimble, who originally was um, the main producer and writer um, of Walking Dead, um, has now been promoted to chief content officer. So that's pretty cool because I heard he was part of the reason why the show kind of was jumping the shark for a while. So now he's the chief content officer for both this show and Fear the Walking Dead. And Angela Kane, I don't know if that's how you say her name, or Khan, I don't know if that's how to say her name, is pretty much taking his role, where I think his where I believe his role. I don't know exactly what his role was originally. Um, I'm just gonna check. Um, so originally his role, um, he's gonna. So now she's the executive um, producer of I think both shows, which I hear that's a cool thing. You can definitely see that um, the creative direction and stuff has been different based on the trailer. And I did hear that you know, um, she was very good in like the makeup department and stuff. So I do think that she actually could do very well in this role. Obviously, once you watch the show and stuff like that, we'll have to wait and see. Um, but I think that's going to be interesting. I did hear that um, Greg Necro Tiro is going to be directing an episode, and Michael um, Cudlitz, Michael Cudlitz, I don't know if that's but he's pretty much Abraham Ford, is directed an episode, which I think is really cool. Um, and yeah, I think that's pretty damn cool that Abraham Ford or Michael Cudlitz is going to be directing an episode. I think that's kind of cool because it's someone that's been on the show before, so he kind of knows um, what the fans would want from the show. So I think that's really cool. That's kind of like some basic behind the scenes stuff. But obviously, when it comes to casting, um, there's been some changes to the show, and these are very significant changes because which is really what makes the show interesting. Mainly of what's coming with Andrew Lincoln, who plays Rick Grimes, and Lauren Cohan, who plays Maggie Green. So I'll talk about Laurie Cohan. Well, I'm sorry. Well, yeah, I'll talk about Lauren Cohan first. So pretty much what happened is she's set to star in a new show, ABC show called Whiskey Cavalier, and pretty much what happened is she wanted a pay increase from The Walking Dead, but they didn't give it to her. So pretty much she's only set to be on 6 episodes. This is going to probably be her final season on the show. Now, obviously, I don't know what 6 episodes should she be on. If she's going to be on um, the first 6 and then that's it, or if they're going to break it up and she'll be on like um, 4 episodes and then not be on 5 and 6, and then maybe be on the mid-season finale and stuff like that. I don't really know how they've broken that down, but I think that's going to be a very significant loss to the show because she's transitioning right now into the leader of the Hilltop and stuff, and pretty much Maggie's been on the show since season 2, obviously, and has pretty much been one of the main cast players. Um, so I do think that is a little bit of that is going to be a significant loss. Um, she is doing other projects. She was just in that movie with Mark Wahlberg and Ronda Rousey. I don't know the name of it off the top of my head because, um, yeah, I just don't know the name of it off the top of my head. So I do think that's interesting. I do think that's a very significant loss to The Walking Dead. But um, then you have also who's not going to be in this season is Lenny James, who played Morgan Jones. Obviously, that was very obvious if you watched the end of Fear the Walking Dead because um, they decided randomly that they weren't going to Alexandria, which was really stupid. So he's going to pretty much be in Fear the Walking Dead. He transitioned, obviously, after season 8. And I was really hoping this season we were going to get the merge of the two shows, but they renewed Fear the Walking Dead for a 5th season, and they're keeping Morgan in that show. Which I guess it makes sense to keep Morgan in there because he's kind of transitioned into the um, main role of the show. But yeah, it is kind of disappointing that Morgan won't be back. Um, but yeah, obviously that was very obvious that he wasn't coming back. If you watch the season finale of Fear the Walking Dead, which aired a week prior to this, which I think that's kind of what ruined this show a little bit, is you really didn't get like a very long break from the two shows. Pretty much right when Walking Dead started, Fear the Walking Dead aired the same day. I mean, you did get like a month break from the shows because both of them went on, and then Fear the Walking Dead pretty much started back up in August and ended a week before um this show started, because this episode aired on October 7th, 2018, and pretty much the Fear the Walking Dead um ended September 30th, 2018. So th- I really wish we could have had a little bit more of a break, but that's just me. Um, but then obviously you have obviously some other side things I want to mention is um at Avi Nash and Callan Mac Olof. I don't know how to say their names, but they play Sadiq and Alden. I don't know which one plays which, but they are now going to be regulars on the show, um, which obviously makes sense because Sadiq obviously was saved by Carl in the beginning, in like the beginning of the season, and it makes sense to transition him into a main role when Alden was kind of like one of the main people of the Saviors, obviously that wanted to create peace, and he was kind of one of the main focus guys. That makes sense to transition them um, into a main role, and so that's very exciting. Um, but obviously, the biggest news that came going into this season was this is gonna be Andrew Lincoln's, who plays Rick Grimes's, last season in the show. Now, I had heard about this back in, I think, May or June, and I don't know how I feel about that yet. Um, Originally, when I heard about it, I wasn't very happy about it. I don't really promote this channel that much, but on my Wrestling Fortune 44 channel, and one of my live reactions I did for a WWE show, I pretty much was capping all over it, saying that the whole storyline is based off Rick, and it's been Rick's story, and taking him out of it just kind of messes everything up. And I still kind of feel that way a little bit. That's like one of the reasons I don't want him to be written off, but um at the same time, I do hear The Walking Dead wants to go in a new direction, and that definitely would do that. Having Rick be gone would kind of make the show go in a new direction, because Rick and Maggie have been kind of like the two mainstays of the show. They're kind of the leaders of the show. They're kind of the ones that bring everybody together. Without Rick and Maggie, it would be kind of like a nice story to tell where the world goes into chaos. Um, and I think that would be really cool. Now, I did hear though that the question now we make also, it's not like the show is making the call to kill him off. I think it's a mutual agreement. Andrew Lincoln, um, wants to spend more time at home because he has kids and he wants to see them grow up and stuff like that. So, and Andrew Lincoln's pretty much been in this role for exactly 8 years or so. Um, and maybe he wants to go off and do new projects, do other things. Um, and because he's pretty much had been in this show for a while, and yeah, so I'm kind of iffy on it. I'm more on the negative side of things, but I am more on the positive side of things because it is a chance for The Walking Dead to go into a new direction. And what I do hear is going to happen is that Norman Reedus, who plays Dale Dixon, will be the main character now, which I don't know how I feel about that because what makes Dale's character so special is that he's not a main character. I mean, he's a very good character, but I feel like turning him into a main character might ruin his character a little bit because he'll kind of have to lead the group, and I think he'll kind of do well in that role. But I kind of like the fact that he's not a main character. This is kind of why I'm kind of mad they killed Chandler Wiggs, who plays Carl, off the show, because I would be more fine with Andrew Lincoln leaving if it meant Carl could become the main character. He could lead the group. But now with no Carl, there's no chances of that ever happening. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with that. Um, and then obviously another pretty damn big news is um, John Berthon Bernthal. I don't know if that's how you say your name, but Shane Walsh. is going to be coming back to the show for an episode. I'd imagine he'll be in a flashback, obviously, because if he just comes back alive, that won't make any sense. And he'll probably be in the episode when Rick has his final send off. And I think it would be cool to see Shane back. We haven't seen Shane on the show since season 2. Um, Obviously, when he was killed off, so it would be kind of cool to see Shane and Rick back together again. So I think that would be really cool. And I'm really excited about that. Um, there's also going to be some other stuff. We're going to have um, Lauren Riddoff, who's a deaf actress, be in the show. I think that would be a nice addition to the show. Um, and I think that's pretty much. They did announce some other actors and stuff like that. But yeah, that's pretty much that. And as though for what I think though from the trailer wise, what I think of the show this season looks like it could be one of the best seasons to happen in a while. Um, you could just definitely feel with watching the trailer, watching the 2 sneak peeks I saw, the show has a different tone about it, and I'm really excited about it. What it looks like we're gonna get from this season is them transitioning into the new world. Obviously, the war with the saviors is over, um, and um, it looks like that's what we're gonna get, and I'm excited about that. You know, they've combined all the communities, and they're all working together to make that new world that those people brought to like Maggie and stuff like that. And it looks like that's going to be like one of the main storylines of this show. Um, I can't wait to see. And you do kind of have these conflicts that happen because Maggie and Daryl are not all for this world, but Wick wants to make this world a possibility. So I'm kind of looking forward to see how their characters will interact with each other because that was in the trailer a lot. And obviously, um, I mean, that's really the main stuff that I got out of the trailer. That's probably going to be what the first few episodes will be about mainly. Um, and I'm really excited about it. And obviously, you can just definitely feel like it has a different tone about it. They're not going to be using as much guns now. They're using a lot of melee weapons, and it's kind of like turning into like a cowboyish show because they're riding horses now and stuff. And it does look like The Walking Dead's gonna go back to its roots a little bit, which I'm excited about. And yeah, I'm really excited about to see what happens with this season. Um, so hopefully this season will be a better season. Um, so I'm gonna give it. I am gonna give this season a chance. It does look like it has a different tone about it. It looks like a little bit different from the first 3 seasons, and I think because we're going into it with a new storyline. While I did like the Savior storyline, it did last a little bit too long. It is going to have a little bit of a fresh feel to it immediately, so I'm excited about that. I am excited to see Jeffrey Dean Morris, I think his name is, who plays Negan, back in the show. And I am looking forward to seeing what happens with him in the show. He's obviously locked up in prison, but at the end of the trailer, it showed Michonne, who I don't remember off the hand who plays her, holding Lucio, like as if he's escaped or something like that. So that would be very interesting, and I'm excited to see what happens with this show. Um, so yeah, one thing though I do want to mention before I start the video is that um, want to make sure I have his name right. The day of the show, the day of the season premiere, pretty much. Well, about the day before, pretty much, we had found out that Scott Wilson had passed away. Now, obviously, he's been in a lot of stuff, but obviously people remember him the most for being Herschel Green, which that's very sad. He died. He ended up passing away due to leukemia. He was um, 76 years old, but he's been in pretty much a lot of stuff. And yeah, I would definitely remember though his appearance as Herschel Green, and I hope he's resting easy. And I do hope that the Walking Dead does do some type of tribute for him. But I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that before I forgot. But now that I've pretty much previewed the season, I think I've touched on everything about I wanted to touch on. I'm now going to actually watch the actual episode itself, and then come back on and review it, and then I'll watch Talking Dead and review that. Now, I didn't mention, but when it comes to Talking Dead, some weeks I might not really go into like a big in-depth review of it because th- there's really not a lot to talk about half the time. I might touch on a few things here and there, but I probably won't do like this big epic review of it. But now that I've pretty much said everything I wanted to say, and what I think is going to be kind of cool too as I watch this show is I have the app, The Walking Dead No Man's Land, and I can play through the seasons, and I really enjoy doing that. So I'm really excited to do that. But now that I've kind of touched upon this season, let's actually watch the season premiere and review it. All right, so now on to the episode itself, and I gotta say, watching this episode, you can definitely see that the show, just based off this episode alone, has a different tone to it than it did months ago. Um, and I even so think that that's very remarkable. That I mean, yeah, there was different stuff going on in season 8, but I think if you watched this episode and the mid-season, well, no, well, probably that, but the season finale of season 8, it's night and day. They're completely different. Now, obviously, there's a time jump and stuff like that, but um, I don't know. I can't really like explain it. It just this show has a different tone to it now, and I think that's definitely an effect with Angela Kin being like the new executive producer. I think um, her being in this role just really feels different. Just the way that the camera zooms in on the characters now and stuff, and the way the show feels, it just I think the show now has a different tone to it, and I can't believe just the changes that were made just based off this episode. Like it doesn't even feel like that it's the same show. It feels like it's like a completely different show, and I think that's just really damn cool. I think the show, just based off this episode alone, has improved. Um, and I think that's awesome. I don't know. I know I'm like jumping the gun, but I don't know if it's gonna go back to its old roots, but it because it doesn't feel like that way. It just feels like it's a completely new show, and I think that's awesome. And I like the way the episode started off. You had Rick narrating, pretty much recapping everybody about the war with the saviors that's been going on the past 3 seasons, which I like that he did that because it kind of gave that episode like a nice feel to it. Um, it made people going into it kind of like expecting what the new world's gonna be. It was kind of nice to see a montage of everything that was going on and stuff like that, and how all the community stepped up and now want to present change. And I liked it. You even get to see the start of that. This is 18 months after um, the war with the Saviors. I did like that it had a time jump um, because it really would have been boring to see it at the start. And it's been a while on Walking Dead since we've had a time jump. I don't think we've had a time jump since season. I was gonna say season 5, but I don't even think then. I guess season 6 because there was a 2 month time jump. Um, but I don't even know if then was really much. But that really wasn't all that much. Um, the last time it had like a significant time jump like that, I think, was season 4. When like months went by. So yeah, that's definitely interesting. Um, and yeah, it gave it a different tone. You got to kind of see everybody kind of living their lives. Rick is the leader of Alexandria. Maggie's the leader of the Hilltop. Ken Ezekiel's the leader of the Kingdom. I don't know who's leading Oceanside. They didn't go into detail about that, but maybe they will. Um, and Daryl's leading the Sanctuary. Which I think it makes sense for Daryl to lead the Sanctuary, just because of the fact that he was kind of there and he kind of knows what goes on there and stuff like that. He kind of knows all of the saviors and stuff like that. So I thought that made sense. Obviously, that changes in the episode, but I thought that made sense. But you got to kind of see that, and you got to kind of see this in the Fear the Walking Dead season premiere a little bit because, that was after the war with the Saviors. You could kind of see that Rick is at peace. The Rick that we saw in this episode is different than the Rick that we saw at the end of the season. Even you know, um, even at even the beginning of the Fear the Walking Dead season premiere. Um, I thought that was awesome, and um, I thought that was really cool, and I liked it. Michonne is having Judith explain the drawing that she drawn, and I'm gonna imagine and just guess that Judith is 3 or 4. I was gonna guess 5, but she's not quite 5. But I think she's like 3 or 4 years old. Um, because I'm just guessing. And but then again, though, if Carl was 18 and he was like a little kid, maybe she is. Maybe she's 7. I really don't know. But she's drawn a picture, and everybody's all smiley, but Rick in the picture's grumpy, which I kind of like because she probably hasn't really seen Rick at peace. Um, but everyone's kind of transitioning into their lives. Um, Jesus and Aaron are killing walkers, and I am going to talk about the walkers a little bit. And like I said, there's a lot more melee weapons going on. You didn't even see anyone really fire a gun in this episode. Um, they used horses, and Rick would use like a spike bat, I'm just going to call it, to kill the walkers. And the sanctuary's pretty much, though, running out of crops. I did like how a couple of members of the sanctuary tried to use a walker as like a scarecrow to scare away the birds, and Daryl just shot it with his crossbow. I thought that was funny. Um, Maybe I think of it, but then again, the stuff that I laugh at, I don't think you guys would laugh at either. But and then so they're going into Washington D.C., um, which they go to the George state capitol, which um is the museum that they go to. It's really in Atlanta, but you just have to pretend that it's not in Atlanta. But it says in this episode that they go to Washington D.C. Um, and yeah, that was pretty much the starting of the episode. But I really liked the starting of the episode. I even liked that we got to see a walker with like its mouth wide open and stuff like that. I thought it was pretty damn cool. And I liked the way the episode started off. It just had a nice tone about it. And it really starts off that tone. And then Rick, well, there was a lot of people that went, but it was Rick. Let me see if I can get everyone that went. It was Rick, Carol, um, Maggie, who has had a baby by this point because it's 18 months. She was pregnant in season 6. She would have usually only pregnant like about 9 months. So, but yeah, it's Rick, Carol, Maggie, Dale, um, Ken Ezekiel, the girl from Oceanside. I don't remember her name off the top of my head, but it's like the main one of Oceanside. I think her name is Cindy. It's been a little while since I've seen her. Um, Taylor, I think, went. Edent, Rosita, um, and who else went? Oh, Ken. Now, obviously, Ken's a new character. I'm mentioning him because there's a purpose, and Alden went as well. Um, so, and they kill walkers slowly. Oh, and Sadiq went as well. and they go into this room and they're going to get some Pioneer supplies. Um, and I did I did like though. I even mentioned the new intro. They have a new intro now. It's kind of like the communities being built. You get to see the hilltop being formed, Alexandria being formed, and I think the new intro looks really awesome. I think it's one of the best intros that they've ever put on in the show. I would have to watch all the intros again though, but this is the best one I've seen for a while. Um, I just think a lot of different stuff went into it, and um, we find out though, like throughout this searching through all this stuff, that Maggie is officially the leader of the Hilltop. Gregory and her had an election, and she got the most votes. Um, and Ken Ezekiel and Carol, um, are at the kingdom, and Ken Ezekiel runs the kingdom. Obviously, we knew that though. Um, and there was a scene where I believe it's Gabriel who also was there, and he looks creepy as hell now. He's dressed up like a priest, but he's dressed up like really creepy with like a black hat, the black like clothes, and because of his blindness, his eyes are all messed up and stuff. It looks really creepy, and he kills a walker, and he ended up killing it right next um, to um, a thing where they showed the different stages of evolution of how humans are formed, and the last thing was like that walker that he killed. I thought that was awesome actually, and you could even feel like the way the walkers don't just come out now. They have like I don't know, like the walker, like there was a walker that crawled up, and that had a different feel to it. The walker, like the walkers just don't just come out of nowhere. Like they kind of build to the walkers being shown. There was a walker that just falls off the building, not the building, but like one of the stories, and Dale kills it that way with the crossbow, and I think that's really cool. There's these walkers that are underneath the glass floor, um, and I thought it had just a nice, it just these little changes. I think is really gone a long way. Like I've talked about before, like it's not even like it's like a completely different show now. Um, and then um, Cindy and Dale have a talk. I think this was just used to fill time, but I still liked it. Where Cindy got like remembered an instant because she saw a canoe of her getting a fight with her brother, and it reminded Dale of like people that he's lost along the way, which I actually kind of liked that scene. Um, and then they do this thing where they have to bring down this big carriage so that the horses are gonna lug, and they have to bring it down the stairs, and they have to walk it across the glass floor without the glass floor getting broken. And I actually quite liked this scene. Some people didn't, but I did because it gave you some suspense that like this glass floor was gonna break. You knew it was gonna break, but you didn't know exactly how it was gonna break. And um, Ken Ezekiel falls through it, and all the walkers are trying to grab at him. Dale kills a few of them with his crossbow, and they have to pull him up through the floor. And this is when we find out that Kel and Ken Ezekiel are together. I don't know if they had been before. I obviously it was built into that, and it had happened. And they go back to wherever they're gonna go back to. I don't know if it was Alexandria, but on the way back from this museum or the Capitol, whatever, um, Ken Ezekiel proposes to Carol, but Carol doesn't answer. So obviously this was a plot device. I don't know why he did this as plot device, but and then they find out that they can't get through the bridge to go to Washington, to go back and get the supplies they need for the Saviors. And this was from that storm that took place in Fear the Walking Dead. It ended up damaging Washington, D.C. Now, I did discuss in my Fear the Walking Dead reviews that I was worried they weren't going to bring up that storm. Well, they did. I was pretty happy about that. and I loved it. Um, and so they have to pretty much find an alternate route. Um, but the horses, there's can't pull the carriage through the mud, so they give the horses a break, and everybody just pulls the carriage right through the mud. And this attracts some walkers, and um, everybody ends up going to kill the walkers, and somebody get somebody gets bit. It ends up being um, Ken. He gets bit right in the arm. They try to save him, um, but he is unable to be saved because once you get bit, there's really no way to save him. So I did like that they kind of focused a lot on this, um, and I thought that was done really well. So this is pretty much where everybody has kind of branched off into their own storyline. Um, Maggie goes back to the hilltop because she doesn't want to go to um, the sanctuary. We know really why she doesn't want to go to the sanctuary because obviously she's not really a fan of how the Savior's War ended. But she says that she wants to take care of Herschel, which um, is the name of her new son in dedication to her father. I don't know if the showrunners too did this in dedication of um, Scott Wilson, because obviously they had to have known at some point that his leukemia was going to kill him because, um, you know, he doesn't just die randomly. He obviously knew that he only had a certain amount of time to live. So I'm wondering if the showrunners named Maggie's baby after um, after Herschel because in memory of Scott Wilson, but I don't really know. Um, Maybe I'll find out on Talking Dead when I watch it. Um, but um, Rick, Daryl, and everybody else go back to the sanctuary, and to some people, Rick is seen as a hero for ending the war, um, but to others, he's not. There's graffiti on the wall that says, "We're still Negan, we want food," or something like that. So Daryl's not happy about this, and Daryl and Rick have a private talk, and Daryl doesn't want to leave the sanctuary anymore. He thinks that this agreement isn't going to work out, that this is just a dying community. They were better off being led by Negan because they had better chances of survival. Um, and Daryl doesn't really, obviously, we know from the trailer and stuff like that, that Daryl doesn't really like the way that Rick went about things um, when he killed, when he ended the war with Negan. Um, and Daryl wants to just go back to the hilltop and um, help take care of Maggie and her baby and stuff like that. And Rick's not happy about this, but he does reluctantly agree eventually. Um, and Dale just misses the small group that they used to have when it was just them versus the world, and doesn't like trying to take care of everybody else. And I kind of like this scene a lot. I thought it was done really well because we're not going to see too much of Rick and Dale together anymore, obviously, because this is Rick's last season. So I'm going to savor these moments as much as I can. So then what happens is later on in the episode, Maggie comes back. Not Maggie, I'm sorry. I don't know why I always mix up Maggie and Kayla's name. They don't even look alike. I did that the last episode, the last season. I did that every season. But it's Carol comes up and um, she talks about how she wanted to say yes to Ken Ezekiel, but it was just something that prevented her from saying yes. Um, and she offers though to take leadership of the sanctuary. Um, and then when her and Ken Ezekiel talk about it later, Ken Ezekiel has that first worry that Maggie's running, not Maggie, Carol's running away. But she said that she's not. She said that she will be back when the time is right. I do hope we get like a nice payoff to that storyline where Maggie does say yes to Ken Ezekiel. But I think that'd be awesome. Um, and I think that'd be really nice. But I liked the whole storyline they did with Theo and stuff like that. I thought it was done really well, and it also leads to a conversation with Rick and Michonne, where um, Rick and Michonne kind of regret a little bit maybe that they didn't kill Negan originally. Um, but she said that they're kind of like what's done is done, and they want to kind of start something up where all the communities can get into agreement and start. I think they called it a charter. Got to make sure I got the name of it right. Where somebody can add like a code of conduct um, if somebody falls out of line. And obviously, it was all Michonne's idea, and Rick likes the idea. Um, and what ends up happening is they have an idea to fix the bridge, and they want to help the sanctuary more. So that was pretty much the end of that scene. I like that scene as well. I was hoping we were going to get that the conversation between Wick and Negan in this episode. I thought they would have kicked off with that, but maybe they're going to wait on that. We know it is going to happen. We just don't know when it's going to happen. And then um, the rest of the episode, pretty much, it was kind of the main focus of the whole episode was everything that happened at the hilltop. When the whole storyline, everyone got separated. Um, Maggie tells Ken's parents, whose names Earl and Tammy, about their son's death, and they were upset because his son didn't die for anything meaningful. They died for nothing. He just died for pioneer stuff and to help benefit the sanctuary when it's just hurting the hilltop more. And they want to hold a funeral for it, and they don't want Maggie to be there for it. And they kind of are starting to regret a little bit that they didn't end up killing, that they didn't end up voting for Maggie. No, that they didn't end up voting for Gregory. Because even though Gregory didn't give a damn, you normally would put the hilltop first. So they have the funeral. Gregory does this heartwarming speech, and Jesus is actually believing it. And throughout the whole episode, it's Gregory and Earl are having a conversation, and Gregory's leading towards Earl, um, trying to tell him that like the election was possibly rigged because Jesus was the one that counted the votes and assumes that Jesus rigged the votes. And we know that Gregory's really being this nice because he wants to leave the hilltop and he's trying to get Earl on his side. So that's pretty much the whole storyline there. Um, and later on, Gregory and Maggie have a conversation, and um, you know, um, Maggie, thanks him for like the heartwarming speech and talks about how Gregory's gonna find another purpose in life other than just being leader of the hilltop. And Gregory mentions that somebody defaced her husband's grave, so Maggie goes to check this out. We find out that it was bullshit. Um, and she gets attacked by somebody in a hood. We don't know who it is, but we'll have to um, to assume who it is. So everybody tries to save her. Edith tries to save her. She gets kicked away, and we find out that it's Earl, which obviously made sense. And Maggie goes in and goes off on Gregory, talking about how she's the leader of this community, and Gregory is too much of a coward to try to kill her herself. So he sends somebody else to do it, and says that um, he failed. So Gregory's about to kill Maggie, but Maggie turns the tables on him, and we find out more about this later. The next scene is Rick coming to Maggie, and he comes back to the hilltop. Rick, Michonne, and Daryl, and pretty much Rick does offer for Maggie to come visit Alexandria because Judith misses her, and Maggie doesn't want to go there. We know the real reason because that's where I think we're supposed to assume Negan's being held captive. Because I think if he was being held captive in um, the hilltop, he'd be dead right now. So um, Rick wants Maggie to get people to help repair the bridge, um, so that way the hilltop, um, so that way the sanctuary can get the seeds that they need. But Maggie doesn't want to. Well, Maggie wants to, but wants something in return because she doesn't really want um, her people to have to bust their ass for the sanctuary for nothing. So they want the sanctuary to do most of the. She wants the sanctuary to provide most of the labor. But Rick's like, well, that can't happen because um, the sanctuary is barely holding on as it is. But so Maggie pretty much refuses, and she does. We get to hear that quote where Maggie says that after this was war was all over, you said that I would be someone to lead, but all you see me as is a follower, not a leader. I did like that quote. It was a very nice quote, and yeah, um, and obviously, if you read it, the production going into this was um, the bridge is symbolic because obviously this is leading to Rick's departure, where Rick is burning bridges with Daryl and Maggie because they have ways that they want the new world to take place, and they don't really agree with Rick and Carl's vision. I liked that. I like this confrontation that they have, and the bridge was a big, symbolic form of that. So then what happens is to end the episode, Maggie and gets everybody at the hilltop together and mentions that um, I don't want this to be a permanent thing, but everybody's actions is going to have consequences. So she threatens to hang Gregory, and a couple of kids come out. Michonne tries to stop her, but Rick doesn't let her, and Michonne ends up getting Gregory ends up getting hung, and that's pretty much how the episode ended. Um, Maggie does say that this doesn't have to be the new way of life, but this is the way um, that. Um, but this is what's going to happen, and that was the end of the episode. I enjoyed the episode though. Um, I enjoyed the storyline with Gregory. I did read that Gregory's death was supposed to be wasn't supposed to happen right away. They were going to slowly build towards it, and then obviously he was going to die. But obviously, because Lauren Cohan isn't going to be in, is going to have very limited appearances in this season, they just wanted to get it out of the way. In a way, you could make the argument that they still did it in a slow way, probably not the way they wanted to, but obviously um, throughout um, the last couple of seasons, Maggie and Gregory were always not seen eye to eye. There was you knew something was going to happen, and we got the big payoff on this episode. And I thought it was a hell of a way to end off the season premiere um, in a big way, and I thought it was really nice. Um, and I did like too this yeah, I liked this episode a lot. I mean, there's really not a lot I can really say about it. Um, I think just watching this episode, it's night and day different than the last season of Walking Dead. Um, and ironically enough, watching this episode, if the show stays like this, I'm not really that offended that upset about this being Rick's last season because um, with the way the shows are going to be run and the tone that it has, I'm really all for this. Um, and I really enjoyed just the way this episode was done. I think this is the best. I think this episode could be very significant in reestablishing Walking Dead again. I really hope that it um, this is the start of freshening up the show, and I really enjoyed it. I definitely think the title fits it. It really is a new beginning, not just for the show purposes, because that was kind of the theme, but this could be a new beginning of a new Walking Dead, um, and I liked it. So yeah, if I had to rate this episode, I got to give it a B plus. I thought it was a great episode. I really hope though that this episode, because typically what happens with Walking Dead is the first episode will be great, and then the next like few, you don't really need to watch. I do kind of hope that doesn't happen with this season, but it doesn't look like it. Um, and if and Angela Kin, I think might have saved this show. Because so we'll have to wait and see. But let me talk about though what everybody else thought of this episode. I'll start with Rotten Tomatoes. You'd be surprised, but it got a 96% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is very good. It got an average rated of 7.25 out of 10. It had 26 reviews, and there was 25 fresh and 1 rotten. You always are going to have a critic, so that doesn't like this stuff, but think about it. Out of 26 reviews, only 1 person gave it a rotten review, so I definitely think that that's very good. And then, um, but as for what the internet fans thought of it, I believe it got a. I have to check. I have to look real quick. I think it was a 7.2, 7.3. So there were some fans that didn't like this episode as much, but the episodes in IMDb were largely positive. There was some hatred, but they were largely positive, and a lot of people are thanking Angela Khan or Kane. I don't know how you say her last name. Um, and yeah, a lot of people thanked her for like saving this show, and that's pretty much the end of this review. I'm gonna watch Talking Dead, and I'll come back, and if there's anything significant on it, I'll mention it. But if not, I'll just say what the interviews and stuff, and then end off the video. So I'll be right back in a couple minutes. Well, not a couple minutes, but like 40 minutes or so. Okay, so now on to Talking Dead that came out the same day. It was hosted by. It was the same guy. I thought it was a different person, but I guess it wasn't. It must have been like a one-off thing. It was hosted by Chris Hardwick, who I've already mentioned who does that. He actually was fine here. He didn't really annoy me. I think that's why I didn't like watching this show originally, because um, originally when I was watching this show, he was obviously kind of being very comedic. I feel like he's definitely gotten more serious, so I do like that. But he had his guests Norman Reedus, Melissa McBride, who plays Carol, Jeffrey Dean Morgan, Greg Nectoro. I think that's how you say his last name. Greg Nectoro does a lot of the design work for people. He does, he makes the walkers and stuff like that. And Angela Khan or Kane, but I'm not really going to talk about really anything that took place on it, because um, it was just kind of them going more in depth about the behind the scenes stuff of the show, talking about what's to come of season 9, and they talked it for a little bit about um, what's to come of season 9. They showed a sneak peek of the next episode, which I'm really excited to watch the next episode, because it's going to feature um, them, you know, fixing the bridge, and you know, we get to see Negan for the first time since everything's gone down. So I'm excited to watch the next episode. Um, and yeah, we got interviews from the cast members and things like that. So it was like a fine watch. I would definitely recommend watching it. Um, but that's really all I have to say about Talking Dead. Really, nothing of note. And that's pretty much the end of the video. I will try to have another Walking Dead review up at some point. Before I end the video, I do want to mention, because I forgot to mention it, that they did dedicate this episode to Scott Wilson. I might have mentioned it, but I forgot to mention it, but I mentioned it now. Thought it was the right thing to do. But that's pretty much the end of this video. Thank you guys for watching this video. Please leave your thoughts in the comments of what you thought of the episode. Make sure you guys like, comment, and share this video so people will watch it. Make sure you guys subscribe to this channel for more content and click on the bell, so that way every time I upload a video, you guys get the notifications for it. Make sure you guys do the same thing for my CM Brothers YouTube channel, because at some point I'll probably be uploading a video on there. And that's pretty much it, guys. Talk to you later.